Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again to this segment of the Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Bruce Broussard, your host, and boy, by with me, I could say co-host on the subject matter that we're talking about today. And I'm talking about folks I've met some years ago, preferably something like 2015. In fact, it was a little bit before that, because the book was not written during that particular time. But when Oregon Voters Digest got in the whole issue of public safety during that particular time, I happened to have been working with a good friend of mine who was former Navy, and he was very much involved, instrumental in the No Vets Left Behind piece. And we were talking about some of those kinds of things, and all of a sudden I found out he was a cop. And then I basically followed up on that, and I didn't realize that he was in the process of focusing on some of the issues that law enforcement and public safety was having during that particular time. And as a result of that, I met his wife, Teresa, and then all of a sudden the three of us appeared but 2015 up in that area aspect of it, and they published this book, Behind the Badge in River City. Wow. Behind the Badge in River City. And in fact, if you looked up the Voters Digest in the archives, you'll find a number of times that we talked about this particular publication. And we had a certified writer that was part of the deal, and that was Teresa. And as you can see on the table here, we've thrown out some of the things that she's been doing from that particular area. That's her lane. And then naturally, the brain power behind that situation naturally is my dear friend Don. I mean, he was the cop. I mean, he was public safety, and then during that particular time, I really got excited about the whole idea of his knowledge about what was happening during that time. In fact, I was a Marine recruiter during that particular time, and things were totally different.
Yeah,
things were totally different during that particular time. Almost joined the force. I mean, I even made the statement at one point in time to Dawn that Smitty, and during that particular time, was working on trying to get more African Americans on the force. That's when Harry got on, and a number of the other guys who were working at the stores and things of that nature. And Smitty said, "Bruce, why don't you come on in the deal?" And I was so involved in community, and that because I was in the Corps doing the recruiting aspect of it, and it just
you're lucky.
Yeah, that's right.
You're lucky you didn't get on.
When I met you, then I really felt good about the whole peace aspect of it. Because I wonder what would have happened during that time. But anyway, what we're going to do is that, like I said, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be trying to giving you an update on what we did during that particular time, and as a result of that, the Behind the Badge in River City, and you'll have an opportunity to read the book. You can read the book in two ways. One, the justification for the book, and that's why we're going to be talking about this piece. I mean, it's a beautiful piece, and I'll let Teresa goes into in fact how you can access the book aspect of it, and there are other pieces about that she will talk about. Well, all I want to do is talk about the fact that we're now in a new situation right now. We're getting ready to get into a new version, if you will, of public safety here in the Portland metropolitan area. And you'd be surprised of the things that were said that we talked about back there in history. Yeah. It's a history book now.
It is.
It's a history book, and we were trying to sell that to the city at that point in time and make it a primer for the training purposes. I mean, just the mere show, and in fact, and then we did the show, and we're going to go on and send that link out, and you'll be able to see the show that. And Don, Teresa, and I, after Don and I did it, and then Teresa was basically taking the notes and whatever and getting things all squared away. But you'll find that it was a very interesting piece. And
I think that was the first show, right?
That was the first show. Yeah. That was the first show. And Don was just very straight up. I mean, he was a cop. He wasn't sly about anything. He was very upfront, very honest about the piece. Fortunately, we had him during that particular time. And I'm not going to get all into the book because you need to read the book. And this will help you out with reference to identifying and interpreting why you should read the book. So please look at the show. Please look at the show. So we're doing this as an entree, and this is the history and the archive part of it, and then this is the book. And then with that, the one we start off with Teresa. Okay, now as far as where would we get this material? Where could we?
Well, that's actually the first edition. It's got a black and white cover.
Right.
That's out of print, but the current edition you can buy has a blue, a white and blue cover.
Okay, a lot of the contents of the.
Yeah, and the current book is the second edition, so there's an additional chapter. There's more photographs. There's a little more content.
Okay.
And you can get that from Barnes and Noble.
Okay.
You can get it from Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So that's, I think it's a very, very important piece. And like I said, the show will sort of give you, Don will give you some specifics, and that you will understand, kind of get a better feel of it, because we're not all cops. But the fact of the matter is, he is public safety, and that's what he talked about.
Yeah.
And then he talked about the solution to a number of the issues we have. Yeah. So with that, why don't we just say that? Okay, fine. Don's here now, and we're going to give him an opportunity to share what he feels, taking it from during that particular time when he wrote this first book on the 15th or whatever, a number of years ago and whatever, and just kind of get a sense of things that are happening today, Don. And hey, let's just chat. What do you think?
Well, what I think is we stopped doing a lot of these things that we should have been doing. If you look back, I wrote an essay about it a little while back about the laws that were available to the police back in those days. Loitering, you couldn't stand on the street corner. That was loitering. Portland actually had an adult curfew. You couldn't be out after 3 o'clock in the morning without a good and lawful purpose. Begging was against the law. You couldn't hold up a sign. You couldn't be an intersection greeter waving at people. That was against the law. And if we went back to that, there wouldn't be any tents on the sidewalk. There wouldn't be any people shooting dope on the sidewalk. There wouldn't be anybody holding up signs. It's just we need to go back and enforce the laws that worked. Put the city back the way it was. Use the laws that were there. Somewhere we went over the line. You got too wishy-washy. It's okay. You remember the time, I know you do, but the only time you could sleep on the sidewalk was the night before Rose Festival.
Yep, that's right.
That was it.
That's right. You can put your chairs out there, the whole 9
okay.
yards. Yep.
It's the responsibility.
And then it had to be done orderly too.
Yeah.
You couldn't just litter the deal and this, that, and the other people.
Nice and order.
Yes, exactly.
But Don is talking about a time that existed a long time ago, and so what we're facing in Portland and in the United States is since 2015, when the opioid epidemic exploded. That's when we ended up with thousands of people on the streets, hopelessly addicted to fentanyl, methamphetamine, and heroin, and so it's a different world now. But
Measure 110.
Yeah.
The worst mess that we ever got into. Because somebody said, well, we can have all these drugs, just a little bit, just a taste. Just a taste. See what the tasting did? Now we got a whole bunch of addicts on the street.
One thing I would like to mention is the concept of pathological altruism. That's what's wrong with Portland. Pathological altruism.
Define that.
Pathological altruism is when policymakers and politicians consider the troubled people of a community more important than the working class or the working people. So the drug addicts, the mentally ill, the criminals who are out assaulting people. They're more important than than people who are working and trying to support their families. It's a vicious cycle, and pathological altruism is basically what's happened in Portland. It's what's happened in San Francisco. It's what's happened in Seattle. There has to be law and order. There has to be a humane way of dealing with severely chronically mentally ill people. Ted Wheeler proposed a new change to make it easier to have the chronically mentally ill committed against their will. I totally support that. Because that's what we did 40, 50 years ago. It has to come back. So some of these older policies that were implemented in city government and in police work from 30, 40 years ago, they need to come back because they work. We can't have downtown Portland be an insane asylum. It can't be out an open air mental hospital. Chronically mentally ill people are dying. They're dying of exposure. They're dying of drug addiction. They're dying of, they're being raped. They're being murdered. They need to be protected, and it's better that they are put in an institution than to freeze to death in winter on the streets.
Well, at the same time, think about it. Just common sense would tell you that.
Yes.
But then the people who are representing the masses of people who have those concerns, you look at their resume, and they don't have the background, if you will, to be able to respond to the issues that you talked about.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to get down to the point of making sure that the leadership have the background.
Yes.
We've talked about the whole issue of Multnomah County and this city working together. Well, the same thing. We're having problems with leadership along that particular line. Now we've got a whole new, and I'll give you just a good example of that right now. Well, Deborah Kafori is not at the county anymore as a county chair. And you notice how the individuals there, I know Ms. Peterson. In fact, I've gone many times before the council trying to get them just to at least respect the flag. And they would not accept that. Okay, just the flag.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm still saying, though, she doesn't have the same background as Deborah Kafori. Kafori ran that deal. And she had to do it the way she was doing it because the people that were there who were elected to the other commissioners didn't have the background.
Yeah.
If those people had background, it would have been sort of a different kind of a situation. But I was there every day. So that's one issue. Now they're talking about, well, the city and the county should be getting together on the housing aspect of it. And the first thing that I asked the question, okay, 45,000, how many? 45,000 housing and whatever. Who's going to get them?
Yeah.
Who's going to be able to apply? Are they going to sell the house? Are they going to give them away?
Right.
I mean, you start thinking about housing and careers and futures and whatever. I mean, that's the ultimate with reference to careers, right? Getting a house that you own and you can pay for and et cetera, and whatever. But now all of a sudden, it's not there. And that's just a tent city. I mean, I can go on and on.
I have to say downtown Portland looks a lot better.
Yeah, but it's all about the money.
Yeah.
I mean, well, why can't you, in all due respect, like Don was saying, the laws are on the books aspect of it. Why can't those folks get picked up? And why can't they, while they're sitting up there in the joint, if you will, in the aspect of it, get on those cleaning crews like they've been doing with the county?
Because that would be considered unconstitutional.
Well, wait a minute.
They would be demeaned if they had to work.
Yeah, but what about the taxpayer who's paying the bill?
Exactly.
Who's losing their homes because they can't afford to do anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
that's exactly my point.
And that's common sense.
Yes.
That's what I'm coming from.
Yeah.
It's common sense.
Yeah.
And so we gotta really look at this very seriously.
Yeah.
I think leadership has a lot to do, but again, the public has to be a little bit more responsible and really read about what they're saying. Media is going to have to be very important.
I think that there's a lot of people in the public who are just absolutely fed up, because a lot of the politicians are talking about we have a housing crisis. Our crisis isn't so much a housing crisis as it is an opioid epidemic crisis. We have thousands of fentanyl addicts on the street, and I call the camps, the open air camps, I call them not homeless camps, they're fentanyl camps. These people, 99% of these people are addicted to fentanyl, and some use methamphetamine, but that's the issue. That's the number one issue. If we can't get help, as in drug treatment for these people, or a bus ticket out of town if they don't want help, then Portland's just not going to get better.
But aren't they breaking the law, Don? They are breaking the law.
Of course.
But the fact of the matter, they're not picking these people up.
Yeah.
They're not picking these people up. So, and guess who's picking up the tab for this stuff?
Yeah, the taxpayer.
One of the things that they need to go back to is making the district police car responsible for what goes on in their district. In other words, if I'm the district car and I see somebody trying to put up a tent, no, You can't do that. Get out of here. I'm not going to let you do it.
Yeah.
So by the time they block the street, by the time they put up all the tents, it's too late. It's already started. And whose fault is that? In my opinion, that's the district car's fault. They're not giving the police department the tools that they need or the authority to go ahead and do these things that we know, that I know, that works. The district car should be responsible for everything except maybe a homicide and calling the dicks. But traffic accidents, people begging on the street, no, you can't hold a sign on my corner. No, get out of here. You can't do that. And I'm not going to let you do it. So until they give the police that authority again and make that officer responsible for what goes on in that district, we need to go back to that.
That's a good point.
Until we do go back to that,
Yes.
we're going to have tents, we're going to have barriers in the street, we're going to have blanket waivers, blanket draggers, dragging blankets, screaming at the sky.
Well,
That's inhumane.
it is.
It is inhumane to allow those people to be in such
Oh, very much so.
such a horrible situation that they should be taken care of against their will.
Yeah.
Put them in an institution where they're taken care of. They
Right.
get something to eat. They're not cold. They're not dragging a blanket. They're not scaring people to death.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And people are scared.
People are scared.
They can't do anything. What happened to the neighborhood watch stuff?
Oh,
I mean,
gosh.
with reference to the
Yeah, I know.
within
I remember
the
when that
community.
worked.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
worked. And people would walk in the
Yeah.
evening, you know what I mean, and visit their neighbors and know what's going on and whatever. They can't do that anymore.
know.
We've got technology.
Too dangerous.
Yeah.
It's too dangerous.
Too
aspect
dangerous
of
to
it.
wander around on
Well,
the street.
but as one would say, that could be organized, if you will.
Yeah.
One that you talked about that. How many more cops we need, right? You got
Oh,
me?
we definitely need
And-
need more police.
And then when you start thinking about the definition of police, I mean, they're being identified in a very negative way, aspect
sure.
of it. No respect.
well,
That is the backbone of public
it's
safety.
true. It's true. The problem is cell phones and YouTube. So the public consumes these videos of corrupt cops doing terrible things. It happens a lot in Chicago and New York and California, and they presume that all police officers are like that. Most police officers don't fire their weapon once in their entire career, and most police officers are on the job for 20 to 25 years. People don't know that. What the public doesn't know about police work is huge.
Well, that's why they should pick up
Yeah.
this book aspect of it,
Yeah.
because Don lays it right out. He was
Yeah.
there. He was
Yeah.
the cop
Yeah.
when everything was going great.
Yeah.
I saw it. I mean, a lot of folks my age and whatever were there then at that point in time. It was a
Yeah.
very pleasant time during that particular time. But now all of a
Well,
sudden,
there was a lot of crime too.
but the still respect.
Yeah,
The fact
yeah.
of the matter is, law enforcement had a certain image and
It's
a certain
true.
definition.
Yes.
That there was a respect, even for the folks who were breaking the law.
Right.
That
right.
there was a respect. But
Right.
now there's no respect. We have to rebuild, if you will,
Yeah.
that respect.
Yeah.
I mean, Don, I'll bring up a point. He talks a little bit about the whole issue of what should that law enforcement person look like.
Right.
So many,
Not a
about
ninja.
5'8" or
With-
something like that. He
yeah.
talked about those specifics. He talked about the whole issue of the affirmative action thing and the impact that it had. You got me?
And the uniform.
The uniform aspect of it.
Blue, not
The
black.
whole idea behind law enforcement is a deterrent kind of a deal.
Yeah.
They're wearing a uniform purposely.
Yeah.
So when a person sees that uniform,
Mm-hmm.
that's almost like, if you want to use community policing, that is community policing. I mean, when they see that, when he talks about the whole issue of police walking in that district, if you will, if we were able to districtize, to know their area.
Yeah.
And if they're driving late at night or this, that, and the other, and they see a car or something like that, they stop them.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden we jumped on a profiling deal. We've got to get the respect of the individuals who are identified in the whole issue of law enforcement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go back to police work.
Go back to
back
police
to
work.
stopping
It's not
crime.
about shooting the rounds. It's not about the Glock, this, that, and the other routine. We've got to define the definition of law enforcement and get it back to the table. Again, that's what we talked about. That's what
Yeah.
we talked about when we talked about that interview.
Don and I have said many times that we believe that Portland would make the national news
Oh,
if
sure.
only
Yeah.
the police chief and the mayor considered changing the uniforms from these black soldier-like uniforms to the old-fashioned blue uniforms that PPB officers used to wear. as a peace officer. It's a lot less intimidating when they don't look like soldiers.
But who's making that decision?
The police chief and the commanders in the department.
The
And they
union.
made it long ago. I think it was
the union.
Croker. Wasn't it Croker that did that? Wasn't it Croker?
Yeah,
Croker brought
yeah.
militarization.
He
Yeah,
did.
Right. I remember
Yeah.
that during that particular
But
time.
it's, ultimately, it's the mayor that allows it.
Right. See, the key is that it's our leadership, and we as voters
Yeah.
pick the mayor. And it just so happens who sits in that seat. That's a tough job.
Oh yeah, it
And
definitely is.
he talks about that in here.
Yeah.
It's a tough job.
Yeah.
When you got city leaders not respecting the
That's
police,
right.
when you got Joanna Hardesty saying that the police do nothing but eat all day and set fires, that kind of disrespect demoralizes
Yeah.
professional law enforcement because they have no respect from somebody who really didn't get out of high school, who should have never been in charge of anything in government in the first place. You got Chloe Udaly. We had 2 high school dropouts in a row that affected some way negatively the police.
Well, we don't know if Joanne Hardesty dropped out of high school. We know that
I know
we know that
Joanne
Chloe
Hardesty
Udaly did.
dropped out of high school, so I was the one that vetted her.
Joanne Hardesty is a very intelligent woman, and she's a gifted leader, and I think she has a lot to contribute. Working on city council was probably a little much for her.
Well, the leadership thing is very, very important.
I don't have any respect for
we have
Chloe
the structure.
Udaly.
We have we supposedly, having been, as we both were, former military type deal, we had a structure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There was no such thing as going over the old man head. We knew who the old man was, right?
Yeah.
The chief, the head dude. We don't have the same structure
Yeah.
here in this business here.
I think it's partly because of the current American culture where everyone feels they deserve a participation award. You
Well,
know,
but you-
everyone feels that they can apply for these really specific types of jobs that require a very special person. You know, not everyone should be a politician. And should we allow people who are college dropouts and high school dropouts to become politicians? I don't think so.
no,
When they don't have even a rudimentary background, educational background, I don't think they should be allowed to have these kinds of serious positions where they're considering multi-million-dollar budgets. And you know, Chloe Udaly, for example, she was not a very good politician. She offended a lot of people. She was involved with people who were white supremacists. I know she doesn't like to acknowledge that, but it's a fact. She offended a lot of people. I wrote about her. I wrote that long article about a group of black people who came to visit her, and she was incredibly rude and hostile to them, and just left them all pretty much horrified.
Well, Mingus was part of her staff too.
Exactly, and the way she treated him, you know, she.
So,
that blew up, didn't it?
It blew up quick. Then
Well,
you ran for
basically, when you consider her specifically, she's basically got the equivalent of an 8th grade education. She went to high school for a year. She went to junior college for a year. That's basically the equivalent of an 8th grade education. That's just not good enough
But where did
to
it
be
come
in city
from?
government.
But the part of the matter is the application process for that seat, for instance, is spelled out. If you look at it, it's just your name and address, phone number.
I know.
Yeah.
And that's what's wrong with it.
Well,
isn't
guess
it?
that has to change.
I agree.
See, and the same
Yes.
thing with police work. And in the book, it tells you point blank. John raises out there, common sense.
Right.
It's not about just a degree
Right.
or whatever. Do you have any common sense?
Exactly.
If you don't have any common sense, don't apply.
Right.
It's like that comes first, so to speak. And that could be easily done, so to speak.
Right.
You got me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do it the probation. In fact, the structure is what I'm saying. You either have a chief of police, you don't have a chief of police and a union, and a mayor sitting up there basically, and the troops are sitting out there on their own.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem.
And what I've heard is that the morale among officers at PPB is lower now than it's ever been.
Well, but the bottom line, all they're looking at, they want to see where's the commanding officer. That's all.
Yeah.
They just need a good leader, if you will. And in all due respect, the chief can't survive where he's sitting under the mayor.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, then we need a mayor and a police commissioner who support law enforcement, who understand something about the profession, who understand about police culture, and who understand about burnout, because it's a very, very serious
It's
issue.
a tough job. I mean, there's no such thing as a 20-year hitch in this kind of a business aspect of it. You burn out quick. And
After
especially with all
15
the,
years,
and in fact, now I think it's even worse than that now because of all the stresses
Oh, God.
on a young person. Maybe 10 now as opposed to 15.
Yeah,
You see what
exactly.
I'm saying? You got me?
Especially in Portland's climate now with all the
It's just
homicides.
and then I will say, if I want to give any credit to the mayor at this point in time, when he started appointing people to the various bureaus and whatever,
Mm-hmm.
he basically gave Rene Gonzalez the public safety position.
Mm-hmm.
The guy does have a background. He's a lawyer, you know, this, that,
I'm
and the
very
other.
glad that he was that he
Well,
is
of
in
all
city
the people that
government
are
now.
there, he's the only one that as far as I'm concerned, fits for right now. So
Yeah.
I give the mayor a little nudge piece on that piece if he
Yeah.
allows him. But I know I've been noticing on the presentation on the news aspect of it. I notice he's still talking.
Yeah.
Let Rene do his job.
I'm really happy with the changes that have been taking place with Ted Wheeler. He's really turned around, and I know part of that is because of a lot of really good counsel he got from Sam Adams. And I'm really disappointed about this new development with Sam Adams. I'm so disappointed that he's not still in City Hall. I think that it's very possible that because he had some health issues, maybe he was a little more impatient. That happens when you get older and when
Hey,
you're dealing with health issues.
You sitting in that seat,
But he's a
Don,
brilliant man.
Ask Don about that first class that's basically running the shop.
Yeah.
Is he a nice guy? He's just focusing on one thing, his job.
Well, they call Sam the enforcer because he's tough.
Well,
And
yes.
he's tough because he's
It's-
smart.
No, it's a tough position.
Yes.
You know, and
Yeah.
he had good background with
Yeah.
Vera Katz.
Oh, yeah.
He's been sitting in that office for quite some
He's
time.
got more experience
Than anybody
as a
that's there,
politician.
that's sitting there.
Exactly.
Not politician, as a
Yeah.
leader.
Yeah.
He's got all. He's been a. So to take him out of that snot aspect of it, but I really think it's a reaction to the whole new formation of
Right.
the city.
What's
now.
coming in 2
What's
years.
Coming, what's becoming
With
in there.
12 new
So
commissioners.
what is
Oh, my God.
What's the mayor going to do? You know, what is Wheeler going to do? Is he going to run for office again?
Yeah.
Once that gets implemented another year or so, right? You got me?
Yeah.
It's going to be
I
district
hope
ties,
Sam
the commissioners.
runs. I hope Sam Adams runs
Yeah.
for office.
Well, anybody that can basically.
Portland needs his leadership,
Well, they can talk to the issues.
even if he is a tough guy.
Right. Yeah. No, I want tough folks there.
Yes.
See what I'm saying?
Me too.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? And I'd still like to see them come up with a stronger structure in the whole issue of the makeup of the police department.
Yeah.
I think the chief should be sitting down there with his troops.
Yeah.
I hate to put it that way. It shouldn't be under the mayor. The mayor should be under him, if you will. Yeah,
Well,
if anything, maybe it should be in the
exactly.
elected position. Maybe it should be in the elected position.
Yeah, I mean, the police should be able to do their jobs without worrying whether or not the mayor, whoever the mayor is at any given time, is going to, fire them or whatever. They should have a lot more freedom to do their job because they are experts.
Well, I think Mike
in
Reese,
their field.
I think Mike Reese, and from the standpoint, he was able to get the chief, if you will, out of the so-called chair of the county. It's now it's a run position.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's independent. You have to have background, this, that, and the other. But I'm just saying, in terms of the structure,
Yeah.
the same thing should happen with Portland.
Yeah.
The Portland chief should be elected. And I don't know how Don feels about that, but I'm just throwing it out.
You don't feel that way?
No, the chief of police should never be elected.
Well, who basically
The only
controls?
elected official is the sheriff, and that's the way it should be. The chief should always be appointed, but the problem with that is we wind up with a mayor who has no background in police work. And then he's trying to tell the police department what to do. It should be the other way around, but he's not elected, no.
But the police, you're saying that, wait a minute, you're saying that the mayor should have more.
The mayor should have experience with police work, or he shouldn't be he shouldn't be in charge of the police department.
Okay, so then
You
the
can
mayor
have,
then
you
becomes.
can have the chief of police be in charge of the mayor, and then you can counsel with the mayor.
Can he
I'm
do
going
that
to
now?
counsel with you, but you don't know what I'm doing. And until you know what I'm doing, you're just going to be counseling with me.
That's what we're doing now.
That's what we're doing now. That's right.
That's a heavy, buddy. We'll talk about that one. That's a good one. That's a good aspect of it.
Ted Wheeler, I will say, he's come around a little bit. I'm pretty sure that some of the suggestions that I was able to offer him took some note, You know, he knows a little bit more now about police work than he did before because he's listened to some of the things we've had to say. Go back to two-man cars because one-man cars are dangerous and stupid.
Yeah.
Most calls, you can send a police car, and 9 times out of 10, another car, whether they're ordered to or not, will show up for backup. So now you got 2 cars and 2 policemen when you should have had 1 car and 2 policemen.
Okay.
So the whole idea of one-man cars, I think, is just horrible business. I've always thought if a policeman gets hurt working by himself, he should be able to sue the city for creating an unsafe work environment. I mean, they don't send 1 soldier out.
Oh, no, that's for sure.
They don't send 1 soldier out.
That's for sure.
They don't send 1 cop out.
I hear you. Well, you know, but then at the same time, I'm still making that point from the standpoint he has no background in police. Now he has a chief. I'm just asking you, why weren't you able to talk to the chief of police about what you just shared? Well, what do you think?
What was the question?
No, the whole idea was that you were saying you were talking to Wheeler and giving him credit from the standpoint. He's listening and whatever.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have the police background in public safety. But he's got a chief under him. And all due respect, was he sitting at the meeting? Were you able to talk with him?
I don't know. He said he would talk to the chief and see what was going
No,
on.
it should be
We
just.
But
we
I have no
sent
idea.
a couple emails
Okay.
his office and sent in a short paper with some suggestions.
I've never been too impressed with Chief Lavelle anyway, because I don't think he's decisive enough. I don't think he shows leadership enough. I think he's just the guy that they got that looks good in the spot at the particular time because he's black and all of these riots were going on. Remember that we had a white chief of police who was a woman, and she decided she didn't want to be the chief during all these riots. So she suggested we get a black chief of police.
And she picked him.
She picked him. So I think it's a good idea, but I don't think he was the right one. I don't think he's a leader.
He didn't lead it.
I don't think
Well,
he's a leader.
it's probably
Well,
a tough position to be in.
It
for
is a
him.
tough job because it's appointed.
Yeah.
You know,
Appointed by
you can get
appointed-
fired tomorrow.
Yeah, but it's appointed, like you said, but it's appointed by someone that doesn't have any background.
Exactly.
See, you got my point?
So they've made a lot of mayors have made really bad decisions picking chiefs of police.
Well,
Ron Still
yep.
was picked by
Frank
I
Ivins.
think
Frank.
it was
Frank. When Frank was there?
it
Ivinson?
was
The other
Charlie Hill, maybe?
Goldschmidt.
Goldsmith was?
Yeah, and Ron Still was a horrible chief. He was a crook. He was a thief. He should have never been a policeman in the first place.
Well, then there was Croker.
And Croker.
Croker was really bad for Portland.
Bringing somebody from outside
From L.A.
was the wrong
From
thing to do.
LAPD. No, thank you.
I don't want no outsider coming to Portland and telling us what to do.
Yeah.
So you had
And he's the one. He's
You
the one
have
that
these- you have
really
these
changed the
mayors-
uniforms.
mayors selecting chiefs of police when they don't know anything about chief police work.
Yeah.
Well,
So
like
you
I
get a
said,
Ron Still, you get a
Yeah.
crook,
yeah.
you get a Sergeant Rich.
But we do agree that even sitting in that mayor's chair is a tough job.
It is. Yeah.
That's a tough
Especially
job.
for Ted Wheeler right now, because he's really been vilified unfairly, and I was a critic. I will admit it. I was a critic, and I was probably unfair. I was probably a little too harsh. It is an impossible job, especially recently. You know, I think he has really genuine goals for the city, and of all the people to want to be mayor, he's the only one that doesn't need the money. He's got money. He doesn't need the money. You know, and Don and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about the motivation for wanting to be a politician. So many people want to be politicians in Portland because they want to make $7,000 and $8,000 a month. To a lot of people, that's a lot of money. Ted Wheeler doesn't need the money. He went into it with, I believe, sincere, genuine desires to help the city of Portland. And he has done some good things. So we're really happy with the way it's changed. We're happy with the impact that Sam Adams had on the Wheeler administration, you know. But it's unfortunate that he's not there anymore. I'm really very saddened about that. I hope that Sam Adams runs again. He's a fantastic politician. He's a great leader, and he's old school. He's tough.
Well, I take everything that you're saying from the standpoint, but with one thing, and that is that the people, the voting people that select these leadership, they need to take on some responsibility from the standpoint
they do.
Yeah.
They do.
of making sure
Yes.
that the definition for those positions are well explained.
Yes.
So that when those individuals are picked, if you
Right.
will, we've got true leadership.
Yeah.
And media takes a front row on that piece.
Right.
They need to be upfront about that piece.
We don't need radical politicians anymore.
Yeah.
You know, what was her Sarah Iannarone, a complete radical. You know, I am Antifa, she said on her Twitter. I remember when that happened. When was that? 2 or 3 years ago. I remember when she did that, and I thought, wow, you just kissed your candidacy for the mayorship goodbye, because that told the public right there she was a radical. We don't need radicals. We don't need radical liberals. We don't need radical conservatives. We need moderates. We need people who can bring both sides together. People who can see that there are some conservatives that have some really good values, and there are some liberals that have some really good values, and find common ground instead of attacking each other.
Well,
It's
like
not-
you said, like you said, though, but the definition of that position should be well said to the
There
public.
needs to be a definition.
You
Yeah.
got to
Yes.
have that definition.
Right.
Absolutely.
And
And,
the
the voters,
enemy-
Yeah.
voters need to understand.
That's right. That's a very
that
important
You can't
piece.
hire a high school graduate
That's right. Yeah.
to take over a bureau.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's like
That's right.
how
That's right.
because you're the chief executive
That's right.
officer
That's right.
of an operation that has millions of dollars
Right.
That's
in
another issue.
budget and
Yeah.
there's a huge staff.
Yeah.
Looks like Peabody.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's a huge organization. You can't have somebody that's never been graduated from high school, for Christ's sake,
Yeah.
take over that kind of a position because they don't understand budget.
But that's
Yeah.
the job of the mayor,
Yeah.
the mayor's seat, from the standpoint of
The
selecting
voters
the
should
person.
never put them in there.
No,
One-
but
one of the-
you're right.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with you.
One of
See?
the things that I found disappointing about Chloe Udaly, and I know she doesn't like me. I mean, and I also know she doesn't understand. You know, I was 35 when I went to college, and 8 years later I graduated as a double major, double minor. I'm a better person today for it than I was before I went to college. But what you learn in college, taking all kinds of different classes, criminology research, psychology, sociology, what you learn is how to work with other people by doing group projects. She didn't have any of that. And it was very apparent when she could not harmoniously communicate with other people when she was the commissioner. She was super sensitive. She would storm out of meetings. She was emotional because she didn't have that background. You know, I can't count how many group projects I had to complete as a double major, double minor, and when I finished my master's degree in 2013, a lot. But what it teaches you is how to listen, how to sit back, how to be quiet, how not to be the person who wants to speak up first, how to listen, and how to work with other people. And she didn't have that quality. And it was illustrated every time she would go to meetings and couldn't listen to other people and thought that her ideas were the best ideas. And I know me sharing this, I know she's never going to agree with it. She's never going to understand it because she doesn't have that background. But that's something that college graduates all understand, or people in military who have worked in situations like that understand. You have to be able to work with other people. You have to be able to communicate harmoniously with other people and listen. And that's part of the benefit of taking college classes and doing group projects.
You're a team member.
Yeah, that's right.
Military,
Yeah.
you're a
Well,
team
but-
member.
Exactly.
To work together.
Yeah, a team member.
But see, we are trained
Yeah.
right up front.
Right.
Yeah.
The boot camp aspect of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't get out there and just pick your own career aspect
Right.
of it. After you get through going boot camp and the testing and this, that, and the other, they give you an MOS.
Yeah.
Right? Then you go through some more training aspect of it. So
Especially in the military,
they have to be organized.
people learn to listen.
That's
they have
right.
to.
That's
yeah.
right. But we don't have that same structure in the private sector.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so consequently, there it is. And if you want to run for office, if you got money, you
Right.
can buy it.
Right.
If you don't have money, but you got a few folks that are able to go out and demonstrate for you, you can get the seat.
Yeah.
You know, it should be about the issue, and that issue should be broken down from the standpoint of an application process defining the job.
Absolutely. I
That's
agree
what
with
has to happen, and we're not doing that. And so I'm not hitting on these people out here when we bring up these names, whether it be Chloe Daly, whether it be Ted Wheeler, this, that, and the other. It's not a personal thing with me.
Right, exactly.
It's the issue.
Right.
You're sitting in that
Yeah.
seat, and you've got to respond
Right.
to me, the taxpayer.
That's true.
Because I'm paying for it.
Right.
Because people are losing their homes,
Right.
and they can't even get out of their homes, if you will. Senior citizens are having problems.
Right.
I mean, we got all these are all Americans that had good jobs
Right.
that are sitting out there in a homeless kind of a mindset. And, you know, someone's going to have to take on that responsibility. All of these people don't want to be homeless aspect of it. But when you can't pay your light bills, like just recently, light bills just went up.
There was a recent interview with a homeless woman in Portland, and she said they're loving us to death. It went viral on Twitter. She was interviewed, and I think they've turned it into a meme. And she said they're loving us to death. That, in a nutshell, is a really great metaphor for pathological altruism.
Well, folks, as you can see, we're having quite a discussion here. I hope you will gather your neighbors and do the same, because we are going through a restructuring, if you will, of the city. And here's an opportune time, if you will, to get involved, And, you know, and like I said, media is pretty well restricted. Everybody's looking at the viewing concept. Everybody wants to see the viewing situation. So all of the media that has the visuals, they're basically right up front. We got the pandemic that keeps them at home. They're not buying any newspapers, so people don't want to read anymore. You don't have to. You just Google it all.
Right.
That's right.
You just Google it all. And sometimes that could be a danger, if you will, because I'll tell you, you can get so absorbed, and if you have to work too at the same time while you're reading all that stuff, it don't work. It'll kill you. It'll just really. So we're kind of in a mess. So we just have to slow down and sort of depend on those leaders that are sitting at the table in the committees, if you will, to come up with a definition for these offices, and with this new structure we have. We are going to be districtizing. I mean, we've been talking about the whole issue of districtization for a number of years.
You have, yes, you
right
have.
right on this deal. I mean, I didn't come up with no 3 commissioners per district though. but hey, if that's what the people selected, those folks who were there, and hopefully I'm going to try to get the chair of that particular group to sit down and chat with them. You know, just try to influence them one way or the other to recognize. That's all I can do. That's all we can do here on the Oregon Voters Digest. Have these kinds of conversations. Don't sit there and try to pinpoint whether it be Don or Teresa or even myself. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, look, I'm a voter, and I've got to take on the responsibility now to make sure that when we elect these folks for these various positions, that this committee, that's under our structure, these committees selected, we've got to make sure that they meet the criteria of what the job is. Because otherwise, you're going to be paying more money. You're going to be paying more money, i.e. to this endless pot, if you will, that's happening right now in the city of Portland. You got me? And people are getting very upset in other areas because, excuse the French, the new governor has pretty well said she's committed to Portland. But what about the outlying areas?
Exactly.
What about these other people that are suffering too?
And
They're
the
losing
rural
homes and
areas.
having problems. So
Yeah.
we have the opportunity to maybe set the stage. But I don't like what's being presented. That's why we're having this show right here, because public safety is a very key position, as far as I'm concerned, in the solution to our major problems aspect of it. And the top word is common sense, folks. Common sense.
Yes.
And let's get down there, and we talked about community policing aspect of it, getting out the cards and talking to people. And I mean, I remember those times too. I said big time. And we've all remembered. We've been having discussions about this stuff.
Yeah.
So please get involved. Get involved is very, very important that you get involved in this process right now. We have the opportunity. It can work. It can work. Because it really bothers me that folks who have gotten to the point where they're retiring and whatever, they've paid their monies, and kids are coming back to their home. They're refinancing their homes, and they're losing their homes.
Yeah.
And then naturally the folks with the finance are buying them all, grow up down at Wall Street and then renting them out.
Should I talk about this
Oh,
book?
yeah. Now we got about. Okay, we got about we still doing pretty good. We got 13 minutes left at that aspect of it. Talk a little bit about now. Which one is this?
So these are our books, and we've actually developed a little bit of a body of work. There's Don's book right there,
Right,
2015,
right,
Behind the Badge in
right.
River City. This is his novel, Frank's Revenge, Albina After Dark. And it's a really entertaining novel that he wrote.
And these are experiences that he's
There's a lot
That's
that's
fiction.
very true.
What's that?
It's fiction.
fiction.
It's fiction,
Okay,
but
okay.
there's a lot that he culled from his real life.
Oh, okay.
This is my book of short stories, Burnside Field Lizard and Selected Stories. It was a finalist in the Next Generation Indie Book Award in 2019, and
And what does this mean? What is it?
it's fiction. It's just
Fiction?
short stories. It came out in 2018. This is my novel, which was long listed for the Clue Award for this year. And that's all. It was only long listed, but I was very, very honored to be included in that company.
And what are you depicting here?
It's
novel.
it's a
That's a
novel.
novel.
It's just
About-
fiction. It's about infidelity and
Oh, okay.
things like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
It's about class structure. It's
Class.
About, it's
yeah.
about what happens when the beautiful TV executive falls in love with the janitor.
Right.
Oh, my
it's
God.
it's an
Okay.
exploration of class.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun to write.
I thought you said gardener.
It was a lot of fun to write. This is a book of poetry that I wrote from 2016, but the most important book is this one. It's Beyond Where the Buses Run Stories, and I was the editor for this project, and one of the writers is Robert Crane. He's the son of actor Bob Crane, who was on Hogan's Heroes. Another writer is Christopher Fryer. He's a longtime writer who wrote a biography with Robert Crane on Jack Nicholson and on
Right there.
Bruce Dern.
Beyond Where the Buses Run.
Yes, and it's a book of short stories. It's also fiction, and that came out last year, and it's been selling really well.
Okay.
It's there's
Robert Crane is pretty well known.
Robert David
Yeah,
Crane.
yeah.
He's the son of Bob Crane, and he wrote a book about his father's life and his murder, which is very tragic. It's a wonderful book. It's called Crane. But yeah, that book came out last year, and then of course there's my restaurant book. The Lost Restaurants of
that
Portland,
one,
Oregon.
yeah.
I didn't have a copy to bring today, but it's selling pretty well.
Okay.
And then my next book,
Well, that's what I was going to
Is
say. That.
The Tainted Rose,
Yeah,
stories
well,
from
one
a
thing
Portland
that
detective.
I do know she knows how to write. That's why I had her to come on with us today, because it's a finished product, and I like that. And so
Yeah.
now, Dawn, she's going to be coming out with another book. Dawn's coming out
Yes,
with another
it's
book.
coming out this year. We tried to publish it in time I was just too busy last year with the anthology and with other things, but Dawn's book is called The Tainted Rose, Stories from a Portland Detective, and it's got 5 stories in it. It's nonfiction. The first story is about jewel thieves. The second story is about the troubled women of Albina that he tried to help. The third story is about a couple of serial killers. The fourth story is about Artent Thomas, who was his fiancée. She was a beautiful black young woman, and she was murdered in 1980. That's probably the most personal story. It's beautifully written. It's really sad. The fifth story is about how heroin came to Albina
Okay.
from the Chinese
Well, good.
overseas.
Good. Now I want to spend a little bit more time on the veterans situation. When I met Don and whatever aspect of it, and that's, I'm very much involved in the whole issue of veterans and getting their benefits and whatever. And Don at the time, I was really concerned about the fact that he had spent 17 years in the police department and hadn't gotten a dime for retirement.
No pension. Yeah.
No pension
He was
whatsoever.
screwed.
But guess what? And I'll be straight up with you, because that's what I'm doing right now in terms of helping veterans find a way to receive the services that they are due, if
Yeah,
you will.
yeah.
Whether you're a Korean vet, and most of these guys are pretty well gone now, but that's it's the Korean vets, and then the Vietnam vet, and then we got Afghanistan and this, that, and the other. And in all due respect, we paid our dues. Okay,
Yeah.
Don paid his dues, and
You're
And you
talking about
helped-
the Cold War.
that's right.
The Cold War.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
There's a Cold War back in the 50s.
Yeah.
But a lot of folks basically paid their dues, and,
Yeah.
and they're not getting their benefits. So I would suggest very strongly. John took advantage of that situation. I did too.
And we will always be forever grateful to you, Bruce, because you helped us find out what we needed to do
Yep.
to get Don his Navy pension that he was probably due
Yep.
for 15 or 20 years
Yep.
before he ended up getting it.
Yep.
So we're always very grateful to you for helping us with that.
Well, to all the other veterans with the same boat here from your standpoint, in all due respect, please get back to the VA.
Yeah.
Get back to the
Yeah.
VA. If you have a problem, just give me a call. I told you before, I'd give you a call, and
Yeah.
all I'm going to do is direct you to that same line
Right.
that they were in, that I was in,
Yeah.
aspect of it. But you got to pursue it. Again, do that, please.
There
Call
are a
up
lot
the
of
VA.
veterans with hearing loss.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes,
Hearing loss,
yes,
you know.
yes. And the other thing, just a little quickie deal. If you're a veteran and you get up in the 70, above 70% of it, and whatever, you can actually transfer your benefits to your daughter, to a relative. They
Yeah.
put that piece in right
That's
now.
good.
That's a good
Wow.
piece. Yes.
Yeah.
So if as if to say that, and Don, for instance, with 100% aspect of it, if he's got any adopted kids or this, that, and the other, they'll pick up their free ride for school. The education piece, that's right. Free ride for the wife. She can go to school too, and whatever. So there's a lot of benefits that are there.
Yeah.
And even if you don't get that 100%, but there are others. Sometimes you might not think that you may need those benefits, whether you're a millionaire or this, that, and the other. But that's no guarantee you're going to be a millionaire when you get to be 85 or 90 years old.
That's
You can
right.
lose it all, aspect of it. But with the VA, you will keep it. You will keep it once you get it. It's very, very important. And so I would recommend very strongly that you pursue all of the issues as far as getting those benefits. My phone number, by the way, right up front with it, 503-701-0457. 503-701-0457. And when you call me, you make sure you leave a message. Don't come in with it as a spam, because I'm going to cut you off straight up with it, because I'm a busy guy. But still, I'm going to give you a number to call just to make sure that I vet you to see whether or not you're serious about pursuing what it takes, if you will, to get your benefits that you're deserving of. So that's my little piece on the whole issue with the veteran aspect of it. And then closing, we got about 5 minutes here to close on the fact that as we started the program, it was about public safety. We want to congratulate Renee Gonzalez, who's the new
Yes.
city commissioner.
Absolutely.
And he was, in all due respect, I got to give a little kudos to Ted Wheeler and the mayor from the standpoint of assigning him as the public safety bureau, if you will. And it's good, but let him do the job, Ted. You're going to be busy trying to put this other city piece together, whether or not you run for mayor or you don't. But the fact of the matter is, you've got to. I think you're going to have a very responsible guy that's sitting in that position with Renee Gonzalez. I think he can do quite a job. And
Yeah.
and thank you for assigning him that particular piece. In
For the
fact,
first time, we've got commissioners who are educated.
was that
We have commissioners now
with
who
no
are
common
educated.
sense? What about common sense?
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know about that.
well,
They don't come with education.
well, that's important. Remember Teresa pushed you back in and picked your piece up, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, but you had common sense, see?
Yeah, I do.
Right? Okay, but he's right. The fact of the matter is that education is especially today.
Yeah.
You can't do what we did
Yeah.
in the early days. You know what I mean? And worked
Yeah.
it up aspect of it. But the fact of the matter is there for you. Education is there here for it. We still have a little problem.
Absolutely it
We have a
is.
little problem with the piece, but the fact of the matter is, get your degree. I would say that right now, as far as I'm concerned, a community college should be guaranteed on the front end.
Yeah.
Got me?
I agree.
Everybody that basically finished that primary education should be, if you will, with a 2-year degree.
Yeah. Yeah.
A 2-year degree, and then go forward, because everybody can't be chiefs. Got me? So get that. The system should go on and make it available, if you will, to get that. Because if you notice right now, in all due respect, most kids that graduate from high school have to go back to school to get their diploma.
It's sad. It really
It's really
is.
a sad deal.
Yeah.
So why don't you just go on and put them in the, because the jobbers, the small businesses are going to the community colleges, if you will,
Yeah.
to pick up whether you're, the unions, all kinds of folks from the aspect of it. So get your education is very, very important. But to the leadership aspect of it, make sure that the 2-year degrees are given to everybody that graduate from high school.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I totally agree with that.
I'm saying?
Seek education.
Exactly.
That's my mantra.
Exactly.
Seek
Yeah.
education.
Exactly. Well, anything left? You want to do a little something real quick, like on this new piece you're going to be running out here? What's it going to say in this new book, John? In a quick note, real quickly. What is the new book going to say?
Your new book.
It's going to say,
What are you going to talk about?
it's a very sexy book. It's about crime and criminals.
Crimes and criminals.
Crime and criminals. It's about albina.
Okay.
Back in the day.
Oh, back in the day.
Back in the day when there was no law.
Oh no. Okay.
Did you know that?
Oh yeah.
There was no law, no poll.
No. There was no laws at all.
No, so
Oh, no. Oh, well, I believe in it.
I'm not bragging. But
I believe in this one. This is what I'm into.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the fact of the matter is, please tell your neighbors and this, that, and the other to look at the show. And we're going to be basically sending this out, streaming this out. This is a very important piece because this primer should come before this. Actually, it should come together. When you get the book, you should be getting this, and you can get that. It doesn't cost you anything on YouTube. Oregon Voters Digest. Just go right to it. You just go up there and you can pick up this particular show and check this out. Then you can read this and you'll understand where we're coming from. And if you're interested in running for office, run for office. No problem. But make sure you have the resume to respond to it because these seats are tough nowadays.
Right.
It's not like the yesteryears.
Right.
You just can't run for office today and once you get elected think that it's going to be easy going.
Right.
In fact, ask our mayor. You know what I'm saying? In all due respect. But it's taken them this many years, if you will, to still focusing on a job.
Yeah.
In many ways, he didn't have the background.
I'm very happy with how Ted is changing, and I'm happy with his leadership now. He's making a lot of, downtown Portland looks completely different. East Multnomah County
But
looks
be aware of the
completely
money.
different.
Be aware of the money. Don't ask the taxpayer for any more money.
Right.
Do it what you got.
Exactly.
Okay?
I think they have enough money, don't you?
They got more than enough money. We should be getting a check back, if you will. It bothers me when people are losing their homes.
Yes, yes.
They're losing their homes.
I know.
And seniors can't retire.
I know.
It's a tough, and all of these folks that are sitting out there in a homeless situation have lost things.
Yeah.
They've lost the enthusiasm to work. Public
It's
safety
true.
has no way aspect
And
of
a
it.
lot of them expect everything to be handed to them on a platter, and
Well-
I'm sorry, but that's just not the way the real world
Well, but
works.
it's like saying so many words. If you want to take a poop, you can't go in any restaurants or anything of that nature. You just poop where you are, and then expect someone just to pick it all up.
Right.
I mean, I hate to put it
Right.
that way.
It's true.
But I'm telling you, common sense. I'm gonna poop if I want to poop, and that's what's going to happen. And so we need to understand that's what's happening.
Yes. Yeah.
We can solve that problem.
Yes.
Well, this has been great, folks.
It's been good to see you. It's been a long
Same here.
time.
Well, hey,
Yeah.
we're right back where we started
Right.
from, right? Yeah, we were right back where we
And
started
we
from.
survived a global pandemic.
Yes, we did.
Dang.
Yeah, but the way they're talking now, it looks like we got a whole new deal again.
I know.
We got the other drugs that are coming in right now.
Take
But-
your vitamins.
But we're living during these times. We got
Yes.
these other nations, if you will, that have grown up and they want to
Yeah.
be their own thing.
Yeah.
But please, don't forget that flag. It's called the American flag.
Exactly.
It's a conglomeration of a whole bunch of folks, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget, without this country, there's no world.
Right.
I mean,
Yep.
and it's a very, very important piece. Common sense,
Right.
please, folks, and please, and then tune in to Oregon Voters Digest at time. We're on every Sunday aspect of it, and check it out. Tell your neighbors, and we'll get there. See you next time around. Okay? Have a good one. Right now. Simplify.
That was fun.